outside the last 2 games. Was that a function mostly of matchup, or is that just the style that you want to play and you've emphasized over the last couple of weeks?
I don't think it was matchup. I think it was, like you said, it was, we need to play that way. We need to understand that we need to play that way. And whether it's feeding the post or hitting a screen roll or driving the ball in there and throwing it back out because it closed down on you. I mean, we have to be able to get the ball inside near the rim, whether we shoot it from there or not. And that softens up the defense and creates opportunities where a guy is shooting the jumper, he's going to be more open.
With Adam, he's probably playing some of the best he's ever played, and his confidence probably is at.
I think it is. He's moving well. He's doing a great job, I think, of mixing his passing, his shooting. Where's he getting his shots from? What kind of shots is he making? He's catching and finishing. He's scoring with an angle. He's hitting open shots. Otherwise, he's moving it on. And that's, I think, the key for him.
Hasn't he done a lot of that stuff well, but now it seems like he's scoring more, so more people are kind of looking at his whole game?
I just think he's doing it more consistently. He's always done it, you're right, but I think he's doing it more consistently. He's feeling better about himself, and it's great to see.
He's not as above the rim necessarily as the way Gabe plays, and so some of his shots aren't necessarily up high like that. How has he worked through that to become better and more consistent as a scorer inside?
Well, you know what? He's never been a big dunker or above the rim guy. He's always had to kind of figure it out. It was easier, in high school when you're just bigger than everybody. And now, the game's more physical and there's longer arm, bigger people that make it harder for you. So he had to really work at it and figure out, okay, how can I get to the rim? If I'm not getting to the rim, can I move it on? Can I move without it? Can I get my teammate open and force a switch? But he's a really bright young man, and I think his basketball IQ is very high. So I think, as he studied film and he's gotten acclimated to this level, he's obviously continued to improve.
When you look at how your 2-3 zone has played the last 2 games, how effective it's been, would you consider using that more going
Always
down the road?
Consider using it more, but you never know. You get into a game and you might use it less. It really depends on a variety of factors. How are they shooting it? How are they attacking it? What's the score in the game at that particular time? What do we want to do in terms of tempo? So it's a game-by-game thing.
When you had Zach as your center in his sophomore year, just out of necessity, and then when Adam came in the next year, what did he immediately bring to that position other than just, of course, 5 or more inches?
It was hard for Zach, at 6'7", playing the center position against some of the guys who were in our league. Obviously for Woody, from a post-defensive standpoint, it was a dramatic change. But it also was a change in terms of overall rebounding. We gave up, if you remember, a lot of people looked at percentages on our defense and our lack of defensive execution. Well, a lot of times it was because we're giving up second shots. It's not that we couldn't stop them. They would go back and get it. So the numbers are way up. And it doesn't really matter. Obviously you're not being effective if they're scoring the ball. It doesn't matter. So we're limiting teams to one shot more often after Adam arrived, which also translates to the other end of the floor. You can run your break.
You have one scholarship left for 15. Are you leaning big or are you leaning guard? Best player?
Best player. Always best player, I think. Sometimes you really need a big, sometimes you really need a point guard, and you go that direction. But most of the time, you go best player.
Does Oglesby have any setbacks, or will he be able to go?
He'll be fine. He looks good.
I think he played 12 minutes against Michigan, and then so certainly he's going to a more limited role, it seems, or at least that's the trend.
I wouldn't say, I think it'll be a game-by-game thing there. Pete's been playing really well, so, that might limit his minutes. Depends on how Mike and Pete are playing, how Clemens is playing, what kind of lineup they have on the floor. And obviously Josh played way more against Purdue. We needed a lot more that day.
He's been a marked man in the past, and certainly against Minnesota, I think he's had maybe some of his best games against Minnesota. Is that some of the reasons why he's only sometimes getting off 1 shot, 2 shots a game?
Well, I keep saying, I mean, he's not a guy who hunts shots. So if they're guarding him closely, I mean, if they mark him, he's going to move it on. He's going to feed the post. He's going to shot fake and throw it to somebody else. I mean, that's just the kind of game that he has. I mean, sometimes you'd like him to be a little more aggressive, and I'll tell him to do that at particular times. But, I think, I don't know if you ever want anybody to be something that they're not. He's just not one of those kind of guys that's going to go hunt shots. He's never going to be 0 for 8. And if he starts missing, he's not going to keep firing and keep missing. He's too team oriented. You got to respect that about him. We all know some shooters, they could be 0 for 25 and they'll shoot the next 5 times down the floor. That's not who he is.
What is his progression defensively?
It's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times that's overlooked, as is his basketball IQ on the offensive end in terms of, okay, you're the 2, you're the 3, okay, line up in the 4 because we're going to run a play for our 4-man, but we're going to put him in the 3 spot. He just knows where to go, whether it's a press offense, a side out of bounds play, out of bounds under, set offensive play. He just has that kind of instinct, and that's critical, especially late in close games.
Has the adjustment for Trey been harder than he thought coming from junior college to this level?
Yeah, I think it probably has been a little bit harder for him, but I do think he's really worked at it. I do think he's competing hard. It's a lot for him. He's always been kind of a scoring one, just go get buckets, break the defense down, and that's a good thing. Both of those things are good. But understanding how everybody else fits on the floor and engineering victory, and then also defending, a killer. And whoever he's guarding in this league is an absolute assassin, at any given night. And you've got to understand how to defend, while at the same time figuring out changing defenses and what are we running, are they in zone, are they in man, what offense we run, and make sure everybody's lined up in the right place. And it's a lot of information. And even though he's a sophomore, he's really a freshman in terms of this level, this place.
When you look at Adam over his career, he appears to be, very resilient, thick-skinned, tough, but, he was also one of the most highly sought-after recruits. He was loved by everybody. How has his personality maybe transformed over the last few years, because he's had, whether it's locally, fans get on him from time to time, of course, nationally now, or has he always maintained that same personality?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen it change at all. You guys know, when he was a sophomore, when I got here, it was the end of his sophomore year. Obviously, he was a priority from that point on, and I got to know him really well, his family, his coaches, and then, of course, he committed to us and he came here. I've had him now this is his 3rd year. The same guy. There's no difference at all in terms of his approach. He's going to study. He's going to absolutely have the scouting report memorized, and he's unselfish, always been that way. He's going to compete, and for the most part, he keeps his mouth shut and goes about his business. We have very little conversation. Obviously, I have tremendous respect for him, and I love the fact that he does for our team what he does. So I encourage him. And we'll have periodic meetings. But for the most part, he's just one of those guys that shows up, does his work, and goes home. Takes care of his business academically, never in trouble. From a program standpoint, he's a coach's dream, because he just shows up and gets the job done. No fanfare at all.
As it panned out this week, I think you ended up getting more negative national attention
That's
than
good.
Adam did. And I was going to ask you about that. Is that
I'd much rather people be upset with me. I get paid. And for the most part, I don't care what people think or what they say. I am who I am. You guys know me well. It's interesting that people could be upset about somebody that they don't know. I have opinions about people they don't know. That's one thing I'll never do. I'm never going to give an opinion about somebody I don't know. But others get paid to run their mouth, and I guess that's what they have to do. But trust me, I didn't lose one wink of sleep about anything. All I'm doing is trying to figure out how we're going to beat Minnesota, a team that's really impressed me.
You, maybe in hindsight, wish you didn't do that and maybe take away some of the positive of what your team did last year?
No. You know, I guess the only thing I would say is, you know, like to me, I come into this room and I expect you guys to know and understand that I can't talk about anything as it relates to officiating. And I get frustrated after a while when you keep trying to back me into a corner to say something that's only going to get me in trouble. You know, I would be respectful. I would hope that you'd have a professional respect and not put me in that position, which repeatedly happens to me and everybody else that sits in this chair. Don't ask me about officiating. Now, the bottom line is you want an answer, and you want a thorough answer. You can't get it. You're not getting it. And stop asking. Now, if that hurts your feelings, that's not my fault. It's not my problem. Don't put me in that position. Nothing personal.
The question that was asked wasn't related to officiating.
Yes, it was. It was what did officials say to you? What do you think about this? And they want to jump to conclusions about what happened on various plays, and I can't talk about that.
Fran, can you talk about, now, I don't want to